So I thought we'd just compare the Tacoma with the Range Rover, see if they are the same. Okay, so straight away, well, we can see the shocks are different. We knew that. The kit does come with these metal bodied shocks, which are super nice, but at the same time these look like the same bore, still look like nice hefty shocks. Transmission looks just the same. Obviously we've got the motor that I selected for this versus the stock motor. Obviously electronics are what I've put in, and I mounted them down here instead of up on the tray. That's where I started off, but then I wanted my interior, so that kind of got in the way, so I put it down there. But the rest of the chassis appears to be just the same. If we turn them over, yeah, everything else, it looks exactly the same. And that's no bad thing, because this is a performer. Oh, hang on. Wheelbase, right. This is a longer wheelbase. I hadn't even twigged that it's longer wheelbase. So that's going to be interesting. Is that going to be too much? Or is it going to be spot on? I've got a feeling with the size of those tyres, it might be a little bit long. But I'm wondering about what it'd be like if we upgrade to slightly bigger. But we'll compare them first of all. That cheap rattle of cheap batteries. Right, as we said, it's full ready to run. So you've got those batteries, you've got the car's battery. Pop those in. Now, I don't know whether I need to attach. Let's just see what happens when I attach this. I presume it's not charged, but let's see what happens. So, turn that on. Turn that on. Steering's reversed. And on here we've got steering and throttle reverse. Steering throttle reverse on top of these Yuki switches. We've got 1, 2, 3, which I think is the maximum speed, and then we've got steering trim, throttle trim, ATV and SW1. Don't know what those are. Well, this is either very badly set up or this has no steering whatsoever. That's got like 10 degrees, if I'm being kind. That can't be right. That's very little either way there. So that doesn't seem right. So I'm going to have to look at that. Doesn't sound very smooth. The Range Rover sounds like silk, so all I can think is that there's not a lot of grease in there. Right, day 2 of trying to sort out this rig. And I have to say, I went to bed last night, not just tired, but disappointed, really disappointed, because I'd been very much looking forward to this, and I can't help but feel that Carisma have rushed releasing it without spending a little bit of time and effort and a tiny bit of money to just get it right, to fit things properly, to modify pieces. So we said about the rock sliders, it would be easy to just make custom pieces there that fitted fitted this body shell, no big deal. Body mounts, apart from these not being a great fit, they're not lined up as well as you would hope on the body. That rear bed dropping is poor when you could easily make a mount somewhere on the back that would hold that, or a brace that comes out. It wouldn't be hard to do, so why not do it? You need to be asking yourself when you're producing a product, what are people going to complain about? What will be their objections? You know, we're in a sales world, you overcome objections before you get them. And then there was the issue of this speed controller and the fun and games that I had last night with this. So I wanted to set it up for lipo. So I got the instructions that you get with it. This sheet says it's the program card instructions, and it had this, so it's only, that's it, that's the entire program card instructions apparently, and it's got a QR code at the top. So I scanned the QR code, and what do you get from that but the same sheet, just a digital version of that. So I had a look at this manual, the full manual, and you get to the stuff about the ESC, and oh, here we go, the QR code for the ARC 2 full setup manual. Well, that must be more than this, yeah? So I scan that, and what do you get? You get the same thing. So that's really disappointing. So you're basically not left with very clear instructions apart from, well, what you have here. A little bit more explanation would be nice. It's not the end of the world, but you know, why are we bothering with the QR code? So I needed to get at the ESC, and obviously you need to plug in the servo lead that goes from the ESC into the receiver. To do that, we need to open this waterproof box. Is it waterproof? Is it waterproof? They've put silicone in the top. That's a pain. That is a real royal pain, and one of the most annoying things I've come across on any RC car. Presumably that is supposed to be to waterproof it, but you've got a big hole down here where all the cables come in and out. And you know they want to waterproof because they've got a gasket, a rubber gasket that's fitted all the way around the outside. But what's the point when you've got a hole? So in order to get to this programmable ESC, which is one of the selling points of this rig, you need to get in here. But you can't get in here because of that. So Carisma, what were you thinking? It's ludicrous. It's such a complete pain trying to do it, and it wouldn't surprise me if I've ended up pulling the receiver wire, pulling the antenna out of the receiver, trying to just lift that a little bit and rotate it enough to feed the wires through and get the plug out. It's honestly, it's ludicrous, and yeah, it put me in a very bad mood yesterday. So I'm fresh today, feeling more positive, but that's just wound me up again thinking about it. So what else have I done since then? I checked out, I put the battery in, I got LiPo mode working, and then I checked out the steering, and it was terrible. Until I found out that ATV on here, that's your maximum steering. So this, what, I can't think what it's called, but knob. That's to adjust your maximum steering, your endpoint. Well, not actually your endpoints, but your maximum. So that's improved it quite a bit. I suspect that what I will want to do is remove this servo horn and put a slightly longer one on, which will give you bigger throw, so slightly more steering. That's what I did on the Range Rover, and that improved it. So I think I'll be doing that. It's a cheap way of improving things, because there's not. Let's just plug this in and have a look. On there, I've got a red light. The red light tells us it's lipo when it starts off, and then flashing green just means everything's okay. So steering wise, if we have a look here, we can see the stops on the axle to stop the steering going too far, burning out your servo. But actually the left isn't getting to it anyway, the right is just. So it could take a bit better setting up and a bit more on that. But of course that's because you get a little bit of bump steer with not having a panhard. You get that steering moving when it's at rest, a little bit of bump just in that top section. So now we're going not full and not full, nothing like. So I want to improve that steering to get a smaller radius. Right, onto the body. What I have done, you can see straight away, I've removed those very, very annoying blacked out windows, or very dark tinted windows. I've got rid of those, and instantly you're turning it from a toy looking thing to a much classier body. The more I look at this body though, again, the more I'm disappointed with Carisma being lazy on this release. These stickers, I don't understand, if you're going to have sticker sheets included with your car, albeit ready to run, why are we sticking them on? Why are we not giving people the option? You clearly want to give some options because you've got some different colours, although you can't use them because they've only got one side of that sticker. But why are we not just leaving the window tints on the sheet and saying stick them on if you want to? It does puzzle me, and the way the stickers have been stuck on is poor. It's really not good. They've got creases in them, they're not straight. It's not a very good job, Carisma, so up your game on that one. And these rear light stickers are appalling. Look, you've got, I mean, it's a stupid design. You can't stick something like that round a corner so thin it's never going to stay. And they look rubbish anyway. You know, it's not good. Don't do it. Just leave a clear bit if you want. Don't do that. Don't put stickers wrapped around for lights like that. It's a real letdown. So yeah, my overall excitement has waned somewhat. If you've not got a Carisma Scale Adventure SCA-1E and you want to try one, before I run it, what would I say? Get the Range Rover kit. But we'll give it a go. We'll see what this wheelbase is like. We'll probably be comparing it to the Range Rover as well, and yeah, then we can make a proper decision on it. So what's next? What's next? Well, I ran it just a little bit, just very low speed in the kitchen, and it was very, very noisy. So I thought I would check out what's been greased. Now I opened up the inspection covers on the diffs, or on the axles, because they're not really diffs, are they? I opened those up and they were okay. Then I would like to see a bit more grease, but they're okay. I just moved it around a bit because, as always, they put a blob on one bit at the gear and then that's supposed to work its way around. Not adequate for me. So then I opened up, then I took the gearbox out and the transmission, and the first thing was taking off the ATT module, the anti-torque twist, and this is running completely dry. Metal gears with not even the smallest blob of grease. Now that is just not good enough. Very poor indeed. Your gears are going to wear out, it's going to make an absolute racket. That is very poor, awful quality control, Carisma. You need to sort that out. So now I'm going to take apart a bit more of it. Looking at the spur and pinion, the spacing on that is okay. There's just that tiny bit of movement, so that's okay. So I'm going to take that off so that I can take the rest of the gearbox apart. Inside the rest of the gearbox, what have we got? Well, there's a tiny bit of grease, but it is virtually dry. It's effectively running dry. If we look at just this gear, you can't see any grease on there at all. You can't even feel anything, it's dry. So that is a very poor show. And it's unfair on people that are buying ready to run rather than a kit. Got it greased up and we're out on the trail in this ready to run Tacoma. Now I'm going to look at a couple of drawbacks first. I like that noise, and this is quieter than before I greased that gearbox. I think I'm going to have to look at the axles again. Next, onto these tyres, which I've heard a lot of good things about, but I'm not convinced yet. Closely followed by what I thought would be an issue, which is that breakover angle with these small diameter tyres and that longer wheelbase. We're just getting hung up. And you can't say I've not tried different lines here, giving it a good go. I know this route well, I've got over it in plenty of trucks, but not today. Here again, just not convinced by those tyres. Those things aside, it has to be said that this is a nice trail truck. It performs smoothly, the suspension is spot on. The balance is good. You know, on anything other than the bigger lumps and breakovers and approaches, the tyres are doing alright. You know, here we're on very loose stuff and we're getting up to steeper and steeper slope here. And it's still doing okay. You know, maybe not quite as well as you would like, but it's not doing badly. On the downside though, is when you are getting to a place where you just need wheel speed, like this, we could really do with a bit more. And the setup that it comes with that pinion and motor, it's not quite got that wheel speed. So you're slipping and sliding and slipping and sliding and just desperately hoping to find some grip. And there we got it. But yeah, overall, a very pleasant experience. I think I'd like a little bit more steering angle, but the poise of it is really good. This is kind of a nice section, checking that suspension out, and it works well. One thing I do have to say is the transmitter, which I thought looked like a bit of a joke, is actually very nice to use. It feels good, it's got good modulation, it just looks rubbish. And the speed controller seems to do the job very well. The drag brake's good, just a nice unit. So I'll leave you to watch the Tacoma on the trails now, and then we'll discuss some final thoughts. you may have noticed in those little bits of running that the bed isn't sagging. So I'm sure you've seen other bits of video and everyone's complaining about the bed sagging, and I totally agreed with them. But I thought rather than just complain about it, I'd fix it. And as I've said before, I think the fact that Carisma haven't fixed this is just lazy. If I can do it from some spare bits that I've got lying around and it works perfectly well, why can't the company do it to ship it like that? The other thing you may have noticed is that, yes, I've taken the window stickers off, as I said I would, but I also just put a quick cover in there, which is actually just a piece of chopped up bag that some other stuff got delivered in a couple of days ago. So I just chucked a piece over, made a couple of holes for the body pins at the front and just taped on the edges. And it's horrible and ugly, but at a glance you just don't see the coloured wires, so it kind of works. So yeah, I looked at this and thought, okay, it looks fairly solid. The bed is a relatively solid shape because it's pretty much a box. So all I need to do is support it a bit more. So I'd said that these could be suitable points to mount something on. And I had a look through the spare parts lying around and I found one of these, the Tamiya body mount extension set. Basically, more body mount posts which have got a kind of cup on one end so that you can stick it on top of another one. So I just measured that up, cut it to the right length for the height I needed. Got one of these spare discs from the Range Rover because I didn't use those. Glue one of these discs on. I've just got a bit of plastic because that's what I sat it on, but whatever, it'll actually rub a little bit less with that on, so I don't care. And then just stick it on the back there. I didn't even attach it because it's quite snug, so I was going to put a screw through underneath, but I just didn't feel I needed to in the end. And that then sitting on top is just supporting the bed. It's sitting about there, and that is enough to keep that bed flat and solid. Super simple, super easy. Carisma, why couldn't you do that? Would have cost about, I don't know, 1 pence. But there we go. Well, we've unboxed it. We've had a good look at it. We've fixed a couple of things. We've amended a couple of things. And we've driven it. So what's the verdict? I'm not convinced. I'm not convinced they've got it right. I think there's been a lot of laziness. I get the feeling that it's probably been rushed a bit. Really disappointing that they've not changed a few of the pieces and got things right. The laziness with things like these lights, which are just horrible. The front lights are awesome, so why with the back would you just get it so wrong? The sticker situation is weird all round. You know, I think we've got it looking a lot better. I know I've just put a mask inside just so you can't see, but it still looks better if you can see through the windows. I think one of the biggest problems, you know, forget all those things, but once you get to actually driving it, I'm going to take it out again and I'm going to compare it properly to the Range Rover. But there's, from what I did today, first drive, it's got a couple of issues. Now these tyres, you know, they look cool on it and you're getting a reasonable scale look with it sitting in the right place. But I just don't feel that these tyres are really up to the job. And because you're going to scale, you're missing out a bit on that extra clearance. So the the Range Rover, because I upgraded these tyres and they're just a little bit bigger, they're not too bad scale wise, but an extra centimetre, or best part of a centimetre, underneath that pumpkin makes a heck of a difference. And this wheelbase is about a centimetre shorter, so once you're switching to a longer wheelbase, keeping those really small tyres, it's just hanging up. So you're hanging up on your diffs and you're hanging up in the middle because you've not got a good breakover angle because it's so long. So I'm going to try changing over to those Proline tyres, or I might try some different ones and see how it runs. It's a nice drive, but at the moment, if you were to ask me what would I get, should I buy one of these, I don't think I'd say yes. I think I would say get the Range Rover, get the kit, do it how you want, spec it how you want. You know, having a programmable speed controller is lovely, but it doesn't cost you that much to get one anyway. I'm not convinced by the motor in this. It sounds and feels a bit funny. I much prefer the motor that I've put in the Range Rover. I think that's got a better feel. It's smoother. Yeah, overall a little bit of a disappointment, I have to say. One other minor thing that I do need to tell you about. I bought this directly from the Carisma website as soon as it was made available. Now, we don't yet know what the UK RRP is going to be, and I don't think we know what the US price is going to be on these. So I can't really compare it completely fairly until I know that. But I paid, what, £336 to get it from Carisma in Hong Kong, and then I had to pay another £37, I think it was, for shipping. I would anticipate that you'd probably just be paying that 330 odd if you get it from a hobby shop. But I then got whacked for import duty. Now, I've been buying loads of cars from China directly, and the tax has always been included. And this, we know, nobody reads the small print, so I'm letting you know. The small print does say your import duty tax is not paid, and you will have to pay it when it gets to your country. It also says if you don't pay it and it gets returned to Carisma, they will not give you any refund, which, you know, seems a bit harsh if somebody didn't understand what was going on. So just be aware. I'm not saying don't buy from Carisma from their own website, but if you've got it in a local shop, it's going to make your life a lot easier. So just be aware of that. So there you go. We will be driving this a bit more. I'm contemplating taking this to the UK Scale Nationals next week. But for now, I hope you've got something from this video. Let me know what you think of the truck in the comments, and we look forward to seeing some more. Keep watching, drop me a subscribe and a like, and catch you soon on RC Pie.